Suddenly, the pastor clutched his chest, gasping. He staggered backward as though something invisible had struck him. A sharp pain slid through him. He pressed his hand to the ground, breathing heavily. Caleb rushed forward. "What's happening to you?" The prophet's voice came out strained and weak. They know I told you." His hand shook violently as he pointed at the door. Leave now. Leave. Come back tomorrow. We must start prayers immediately." He groaned. "They have started attacking." Caleb froze. "Go!" the prophet shouted. Caleb grabbed the door and fled into the evening light, heart pounding, mind racing, the truth echoing painfully in his ears. Caleb didn't sleep that night. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring into nothing, replaying the prophet's words over and over again until they wrapped around his mind like a rope slowly tightening. 3 years, initiation, replacement, chosen one, my father. The more he thought about it, the more pieces of the last few years began to rearrange in his head, like a puzzle he didn't even know was scattered. He hadn't questioned why he felt no urgency to return. He hadn't questioned his indifference to Tracy, why the village felt strangely comfortable, and why he stopped caring. And now, sitting in the dark, he finally realized something. He didn't choose any of those things. A cold shiver crawled up his spine. Caleb felt fear, real fear. He wanted to run. He wanted to scream. He wanted to leave everything and disappear into the night. But he couldn't. Not yet. Not until he saw the prophet again. Morning felt like it took forever to arrive. Caleb rushed to the prophet's church before sunrise. The door to the small church was half opened. He stepped in and froze. The pastor sat slumped on a plastic chair, head bowed, shoulders shaking slightly, his breathing heavy and labored. "Sir!" Caleb rushed forward. "What happened to you?" The prophet lifted his face slowly. There were scratches on his neck. His eyes looked swollen. His voice cracked when he spoke. "They attacked me." Caleb's stomach twisted. "Who?" "The forces connected to your father's brotherhood." He tried to sit upright but winced in pain. "They came in the night. They shouted at me. 'Leave what does not concern you. Don't interfere with our son.' One of them tried to choke me. I could not breathe. I saw shadows moving. I heard footsteps inside the room. The entire place felt heavy." Caleb swallowed hard. For the first time, reality hit him fully. This wasn't a story. This wasn't imagination. This was a war. "But why are they fighting you?" Caleb whispered. "Because I'm trying to break what they already tied." The prophet said weakly, "You are very close to their final stage, and they don't want to lose you." The prophet reached for a bottle of water and took a slow sip. "Sit down," he said. "We need to begin immediately." Caleb sat opposite him, his hands trembling. The prophet inhaled deeply and began praying deep and targeted prayers that carried weight. "Father, let the scales fall from his eyes. Let every grip holding him lose strength. Let him come back to his true self." Caleb felt pressure building in his chest, like someone was squeezing his lungs from the inside. The prayers intensified. Caleb's hands began shaking. His breathing quickened. He pressed his palms against his knees, trying to steady himself. Visions, flashes of memories started hitting him like waves, arriving in the village, sleeping in his father's room, waking up feeling overly peaceful, feeling no desire to leave. Caleb squeezed his eyes shut, panic rising. "What's happening to me?" he gasped. "You're waking up," the prophet said. "Your real self is pushing through the fog." While Caleb was battling spiritual pressure in the church, Tracy sat in a quiet restaurant staring at Kelvin. She had dressed simply, but she still felt a strange weight in her chest she couldn't shake off. Kelvin smiled warmly at her. He was patient, gentle, soft-spoken, everything opposite of the chaos Caleb had left her in. "I'm really glad we could meet today," Kelvin said. Tracy smiled weakly. "Me too," but her mind wasn't fully present. Something in her spirit felt unsettled. She thought she had moved on. She thought she had closed that chapter and healed. But as she sat there listening to Kelvin talk, she felt a strange tug in her chest, an unexplainable heaviness. She suddenly felt like something was happening somewhere, something connected to her, but she pushed it aside and forced a smile. She didn't know that at this exact moment, miles away, Caleb was fighting for his soul. Back in the village, after almost 2 hours of prayer, the prophet slumped back in exhaustion. "We have only 1 month," he said. Caleb lifted his head slowly. He felt ice water flow through his veins. "1 month?" he whispered. "Yes. And if I stay past that date, they will own you completely." Caleb covered his face with both hands. His mind raced. He felt panic wrapping around him. "I need to leave," he said. "I need to go back to the US. I need to escape." "You will," the prophet replied, "but we must prepare you spiritually before you attempt it. If you try to escape now, they will attack you." Caleb nodded slowly. "What do I do now?" The prophet leaned forward. "We will pray every day for the next 7 days. We will ask God to break every bond. When the 7th day ends, you will be fully free, and then we will plan your escape." Caleb took a shaky breath. "Okay." But the prophet wasn't finished. "Be careful," he warned. "Act normal at home. Don't argue with your father. Don't mention the church. Don't pack any bag. Don't behave like someone preparing to travel. If they suspect even one thing, they will tighten the grip." Caleb nodded again, but deep inside, fear gnawed at him. How was he supposed to pretend nothing was happening when he now knew everything? That night, Caleb returned home. His father smiled warmly at him. "Where did you go?" he asked casually. Caleb forced a smile. "To see a friend." "Good," his father said. "Tomorrow, we go to the farm early. There is work to do." "All right, Daddy," he answered calmly. But inside, his heart raced like a trapped animal. When night came, Caleb lay on the bed, but the air felt different now. Heavy, sharp, watchful. His mind replayed everything the prophet said. He stared at the ceiling for hours, unable to sleep. Around midnight, his entire body tensed suddenly, like an invisible cold hand had brushed over him. His breath caught. He didn't know why. He didn't see anything. He didn't hear anything, but something felt present, watching, monitoring, listening. Caleb closed his eyes tightly. He didn't know how he was going to survive 7 more days pretending, but he had no choice. He was in a war he didn't start, and he had only 1 month to escape it. At dawn, as Caleb stepped into the compound to fetch water, a young man ran towards him in fear. "What happened?" Caleb asked. The boy pointed towards a small shop down the road. "Prophet David," the boy's voice shook. "He collapsed last night. People are saying he fainted during prayer." Caleb's heart jumped into his throat. "What?" "They carried him inside the shop. He can't stand up." Caleb dropped the bucket immediately and ran. He didn't know what awaited him. He didn't know if the prophet was alive. He didn't know if the war had escalated. He only knew one thing. If Prophet David fell, he was completely alone. Caleb sprinted down the dusty road, heart pounding so loudly he could barely hear anything else. His slippers slapped against the ground as he dodged potholes and stumbled around corners. Villagers stared as he ran past, but he didn't stop to greet anyone. All he could think was, "Prophet David cannot fall now, not when I've just woken up, not when I finally know the truth." When he reached the small shop where the boy directed him, a few villagers were gathered outside, whispering in low tones. Caleb pushed through the crowd. Inside the shop, Prophet David lay on a wooden bench, his shirt soaked with sweat. His breathing was shallow, his eyes half closed. "Prophet," Caleb called, kneeling beside him. Prophet David didn't open his eyes, but moved his fingers weakly. "I told you," he whispered. "They attacked me. Again." Caleb swallowed hard, fear creeping up his spine. "What do we do now? What's happening to you?" "Sit close," Prophet David murmured. Caleb leaned in, trembling. "They want me to stop," the prophet said. "But I won't. You must not panic. The more afraid you are, the easier it is for them to tighten their grip." Caleb forced himself to breathe slowly, even though his chest felt like it was caving in. "We continue tonight," Prophet David said, still weak. "Are you sure?" Caleb asked, voice shaking. "Yes, this is not spiritual sickness. This is a direct confrontation. But God is stronger." Caleb nodded slowly, confused. He needed Prophet David, alive and strong. He needed him to survive long enough to set him free. Because without him, Caleb had no word, no guidance, no protection, no chance. Caleb reached home and found his father sitting on the veranda peeling boiled yam with calm hands. "You are late," his father said lightly. "We were supposed to go to the farm today." Caleb forced a smile. "Sorry, Daddy. I had a headache. I needed some rest." His father nodded, acting unsuspicious. "You should rest then. You've overworked yourself these past few days." Caleb nodded and stepped inside the house. He sat on the bed, staring at the walls, mind spinning. He needed to pretend everything was normal. He needed to act like nothing had changed. Prophet David had warned him. He tried to breathe, but his chest felt constricted. Everything suddenly felt too small, too quiet, too dangerous. After a few minutes, he lay down and closed his eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. His mind was a battlefield. His father's gentle voice floated in from outside, greeting neighbors as they walked by. It sounded normal, completely innocent. And that was what made Caleb's stomach twist even more. By evening, Caleb slipped out quietly and headed to the prophet's church again. This time, Prophet David looked a little stronger than earlier. "Sit," the prophet said immediately. Caleb sat, fingers twisting in anxiety. "We don't have much time," Prophet David said. "In the spiritual realm, the countdown has already begun." He placed his hand on Caleb's head and began praying, this time louder, more aggressively, more urgently. Caleb felt his body growing hot. Heat crawled from his chest to his shoulders. His eyes burned. His head felt heavy. He groaned softly. "Yeah," Pastor David said without stopping. "Let the chains break. Let it break now." The prayer continued for almost 2 hours. By the time they were done, Caleb's clothes were wet with sweat. "This is day one," the prophet said. "Every day, it will get stronger. You must endure it." Caleb nodded weakly. That night, he returned home exhausted, physically, mentally, spiritually. His father was in the living room watching the village news channel. "You're sweating," his father said casually. "Where did you go?" "I walked around the village," Caleb replied, trying not to sound nervous. His father nodded, eyes still on the TV. The next day's prayer was more intense. Caleb fell to his knees halfway through. His stomach churned. His head throbbed. Prophet David circled him, praying without pause. Suddenly, Caleb felt something inside him snap. A weight lifted from his mind, like fog clearing. He inhaled sharply. For the first time in 3 years, he remembered something clearly. His return ticket. He remembered buying a month ticket. He remembered telling Tracy he would come back in January. But he never did. He had no reason, no explanation. It was like someone had switched off the part of his brain that cared. When the prayer finally ended, Caleb looked up at Prophet David with trembling lips. I remember," he whispered. "Good," the prophet said. "Your mind is returning." By day 4, Caleb began remembering more. His responsibilities, his plans, his dreams, his job, his marriage, his entire life. He broke down crying. "Why did this happen to me?" he asked. The prophet placed a hand on his back. "Because destiny attracts attention, even negative attention." Meanwhile, Tracy sat opposite Kelvin again. They were having a quiet dinner. Kelvin smiled gently. "I'm really happy you gave us another date," he said. Tracy smiled weakly. "I'm trying." Kelvin nodded. "I understand. Take your time." Her phone buzzed. She looked down. The screen flashed a name she had not seen in nearly 2 years. Caleb calling. Her breath caught. Kelvin noticed her expression. "Are you okay?" Tracy's hand shook slightly as she picked up the phone. "Hello," she whispered. A choked voice came through the line. Tracy, please don't cut the call. Her chest tightened painfully. Caleb, why are you calling me now? I'm so sorry. He sobbed. Tracy, I've been trapped. I didn't know what I was doing. I swear. I'm begging you. Help me, please. Tracy looked at Kelvin, who looked away respectfully, pretending not to listen. What do you want? She whispered. Help me book a return ticket. Caleb pleaded. I am broke. I need to leave. Please, please help me. Tracy's first instinct was to hang up, but something inside her, something spiritual, held her hand steady. She didn't know why. She didn't understand. She simply couldn't disconnect. Her voice trembled. Okay, I will. I'll help you. Kelvin's expression softened. He nodded at her, signaling he understood. Tracy exhaled shakily. She booked the flight, and then Caleb said words that filled her eyes with tears. Tracy, I don't deserve you, but thank you. Back in the village, Prophet David knew escape time had arrived. Caleb, he said, you must pretend everything is normal. Walk into the house calmly. Pick only your passport. No bags, no clothes, nothing. Why? Caleb asked. If you pack a bag, your father will sense you are leaving. His spirit will alert him. They will stop you before you reach the main road. Caleb swallowed hard. After you take the passport, leave immediately and come here. Don't greet anyone. Don't talk to anyone. Don't look back. Caleb nodded nervously. And Caleb, the prophet added, lowering his voice. Yes? You must not tell your father you are traveling, not even indirectly. If he asks a question, keep the answer short. Caleb's heart raced. He couldn't believe he was planning to escape his own home like a prisoner, but he had no choice. Caleb walked into the house slowly, heartbeat pounding. He greeted his father casually, entered the room, knelt beside the bed, and quietly opened a small bag where he kept his documents. His trembling fingers touched the passport. He closed the bag, stood up, walked out. As soon as he stopped outside, his father called behind him. Caleb, where are you going? You didn't tell me. Caleb froze. His heart almost stopped. He forced a smile and turned slightly. I'm going to see a friend, he said calmly. His father watched him for a long second, then nodded. Go well, he said. Caleb walked out without looking back. But the moment he turned the corner, he ran. He ran like his life depended on it. He arrived at the prophet's church, breathless, shaking, sweating. Prophet David was waiting. Let go, the prophet said. He gave Caleb some money. Go straight to the airport. Don't stop. Don't answer calls from anyone except Tracy. Don't tell anyone you are traveling. Caleb nodded. God is with you, Prophet David said. Caleb turned and rushed towards the main road. He caught a bus, then a taxi, then another taxi. Every mile felt like someone was chasing him. When he finally reached the airport and checked in, he let out a breath he had held for too long. As the plane lifted into the sky, Caleb stared out the window, eyes burning with tears of relief. He was free, but behind him, somewhere far away, his father's voice trembled through the phone, asking villagers, has anyone seen my son? Caleb is missing. As the plane climbed higher into the sky, Caleb closed his eyes, whispering, God, please, let me get home safely. He didn't know that the real battle was waiting for him in America, with Tracy, with the truth, with forgiveness, with his shattered marriage, and with the new life he now had to rebuild. When Caleb's flight touched down in the United States, he remained seated long after the passengers began to file out. His legs felt weak, his hands trembled, his throat was dry. Every step he took down the plane stairs felt unreal, like he had been dead and was just waking up. 3 years of his life, gone, wasted, stolen, all because of a battle he didn't even know he was fighting. He walked through the airport in a daze, hardly noticing the buzzing energy, the voices, the announcement. Everything felt louder, brighter, sharper. His senses were alive in a way they had not been for years. He pulled out his phone. One name stared at him. Tracy. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. He pressed call. She didn't answer. He tried again. This time, she picked up, but her voice was guarded. cold, distant. Hello. Caleb swallowed. Tracy, I'm back. Silence. Then, okay. He closed his eyes. That one word cut deeper than any attack he had faced in the village. Please, can I come home? Another silence. I'm not home right now, she said quietly. He felt the sting immediately. She wasn't avoiding him. She was protecting herself from pain, from confusion, from the possibility of reopening a wound that nearly killed her emotionally. I understand, he whispered. I'll wait. Just please don't shut me out. Tracy didn't respond to that. She simply said, we'll talk later. Then the line went dead. Caleb took a taxi to the apartment he once shared with Tracy. The moment he stepped inside, guilt slammed into him. Everything looked the same, but everything felt different. He dropped his small passport wallet on the table and sank onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. How do I explain this? He whispered. How do I expect her to believe me? He stayed there for hours, battling shame, fear, and heartbreak. It was almost 9 p.m. when the door finally opened. Tracy stepped in slowly, hesitating when she saw him. Caleb stood immediately. For a moment, they just stared at each other. She looked beautiful but exhausted, stronger but guarded, present but far away. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words failed him. She walked past him, placed her bag on the dining table, and leaned on the chair. He approached her cautiously. Tracy? Caleb, she caught in softly. I don't know what to say to you. He swallowed hard. I understand, but please, hear me out. She closed her eyes briefly. I've had enough in the last years. Silence, disappearance, confusion, shame, dreams I didn't understand. You blocking me, feeling abandoned. Her voice cracked for the first time. I went through all that alone, Caleb, all alone. Tears stung Caleb's eyes. I know, and I'm so sorry. She shook her head. Sorry is not enough. I know, but it's all I have. Unless you let me explain. Tracy exhaled and sat down slowly. Talk. Caleb told her everything. Not dramatic, not exaggerated, just raw truth. He spoke for nearly 30 minutes. Tracy listened silently, her face unreadable. When he finished, her hands trembled slightly. Your father? She whispered. Your own father was involved in something like that? Caleb nodded weakly. I didn't know. I had no idea. She leaned back, overwhelmed. And all the dreams I had, she said slowly. God was trying to show me something. Caleb in the grip of his father. That was exactly what he said. Caleb's eyes widened. You heard that clearly? Yes, but I didn't understand. I begged God for clarity, but the dreams repeated. And then, when nothing changed, I stopped praying. I gave up. He shook his head slowly. But your prayers worked. Even when you stopped later, the prayers you prayed earlier had already opened the door for God to send help. Tears finally slid down her cheeks. I prayed so hard, she whispered. I didn't know heaven was listening. Caleb reached for her hand, but she pulled it back slightly, not in anger, but in fear of opening herself to hurt again. He understood. Tracy, he said softly, I'm not asking you to forget what happened. I'm not asking you to pretend nothing happened. I'm just asking, let me earn you back. Her lips trembled. She stood up and walked into the bedroom. Caleb didn't follow. He sat on the couch, heart breaking slowly. A few minutes later, Tracy returned, holding his phone. It was ringing. She handed it to him. It was Prophet David. Caleb took the call with shaking hands. Prophet, he breathed. Caleb, Prophet David's voice sounded tired but firm. Have you arrived safely? Yes, sir. Good. I've been praying for your journey. Now, your next battle is healing and restoration. Caleb nodded silently. Your wife, the prophet continued, needs truth and time. Don't force her. Love her. Be patient. Caleb nodded again, tears filling his eyes. Also, Prophet David added, tell her what God showed me. Her inability to conceive all those years wasn't biological. It was spiritual warfare. Tracy froze beside Caleb. They didn't want you to have a child with her, the prophet said, because the lineage of that occultic covenant uses firstborn children to continue the chain. If she conceived, your child will automatically become the next target. But they don't want your child far from the village. They plan to arrange another wife for you in the village after your successful initiation. Tracy gasped softly, her hand flying to her mouth. That was why they blocked conception, the prophet said. But now that you're free, that barrier is broken. Caleb and Tracy exchanged a stunned look. Please, stay prayerful, the prophet added. Your freedom is the beginning. Maintain it. The call ended. Tracy slowly lowered herself onto the chair as fresh tears peeled down her cheeks. All these years, she whispered, voice cracking, we wanted a child. We cried, we prayed, we blamed ourselves, not knowing the enemy was your father's covenant. Caleb walked towards her slowly this time. She didn't move away, didn't resist, didn't pull back. He knelt in front of her. I'm so sorry you went through that, he whispered, but I'm free now, and I won't let anything touch you again. This time, Tracy let him take her hand, and she held it, weakly, shakily, but willingly. The next few weeks were heavy but hopeful. They talked often, long, honest conversations. Caleb apologized deeply and consistently. Tracy cried often, venting the pain she had bottled for years. Prophet David called twice a week, praying with them and guiding Caleb on how to break ancestral ties permanently. Caleb started fasting, praying, studying scriptures, growing spiritually, transforming, and slowly their marriage began to heal. After nearly a month, one morning, Tracy walked into the living room, looked at Caleb and simply said, I forgive you. Caleb broke down instantly and she hugged him, properly, fully, tightly, for the first time since he returned. That embrace marked the beginning of their restoration. 4 months later, Tracy began feeling strange, tired, sleepy, dizzy. She dismissed it as stress until one day, she suddenly realized she had missed her period. Her hands shook as she took the test. Positive. Then she took another one. It was positive. She burst into tears instantly. Loud, grateful tears. Caleb! He ran into the bathroom. Panicked. What happened? She handed him the test. He stared at it, froze, looked at her, looked at the test again. Then he fell to his knees and cried harder than he cried in years. They held each other, weeping, tears of healing, gratitude, shock, joy. After 8 painful years, God answered. Month later, their baby boy arrived, healthy, strong, full of life. As Caleb held the child in his arms for the first time, tears ran down his cheeks again. This was the same lineage the cult wanted to seize, the same child they wanted to use to continue the covenant. But God rewrote their story, and as Caleb rocked his son gently, he whispered, I will never step into that village again. Not out of hatred, not out of fear, but because he finally understood. Ancestral covenants are real. Spiritual battles are real. Destiny can be redirected without noise, and only God's mercy can break certain chains. He lifted his son towards heaven. Father, thank you for mercy. Thank you for freedom. Thank you for my wife. Thank you for this child. And thank you for breaking the grip of the past. His voice trembled. I will raise this child in your light. I will not pass darkness to him. Some battles begin long before a person is born. Some covenants are inherited unknowingly. Some destinies are targeted silently. Some chains look harmless until God reveals the truth. But mercy speaks. Grace interrupts. Prayer provokes deliverance. And when God decides to set a man free, no ancestral covenants, no hidden brotherhood, no spiritual manipulation can hold him captive. Caleb's story is a reminder that not everything is physical. Not every problem is ordinary. Not every delay is random. And above all, being spiritually sensitive can save a life. I hope you enjoyed this story. Give it a like and share it with your friends. and your loved ones. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.